The story opens on the vast, sun-drenched landscape of Colton Hayes' ranch, a sprawling expanse of green pastures, wooden fences, and rugged outbuildings. Colton is a man who embodies the very spirit of the land he tends, strong, self-reliant, and dedicated to his work. Every day, he rises with the sun, overseeing the cattle, managing ranch hands, and ensuring that the business side of the ranch runs smoothly. Yet despite his competence and toughness, Colton faces a practical problem that has begun to gnaw at him. The ranch, though thriving in cattle and crops, is missing the warmth and structure that a proper home and kitchen can provide. The meals for his household, especially for his young daughter Emma, have been inconsistent, often cold or overly simple. The ranch hands, too, deserve hearty meals to sustain them through long days in the fields. This problem, though practical, begins to carry emotional weight. Colton realizes that he has become too busy running the ranch to nurture the small, essential joys of life, like the smell of fresh bread in the morning or a well-cooked family dinner. Colton's previous attempts to solve the problem have ended in frustration. Local cooks and bakers who seemed promising at first often proved unreliable or inexperienced. Some arrived with grand promises, but could not handle the physical demands of working in a ranch kitchen. Others left after a short time, frustrated by the rustic conditions or by Colton's no-nonsense approach. These failed attempts have left Colton cautious and slightly bitter. He is a man used to control, and the lack of a dependable cook is a glaring gap in an otherwise meticulously managed life. He is a perfectionist by necessity, someone who cannot afford to let any detail slip, whether it is the health of his herd or the management of his finances. Emotionally, this part of the story establishes Colton's isolation. Though he has built a life of accomplishment, it is a life largely without intimacy beyond his daughter. His staff respects him, but he has no one with whom he can share the quieter, more tender moments of domestic life. This sense of loneliness is subtly conveyed through small narrative details. The empty chair at the kitchen table, the untouched flour bin, and the quiet mornings when only the wind and the lowing of cattle accompany him. Colton's dilemma is not merely culinary. It is a gap in his emotional and social life. The ranch represents success, but also solitude. And the missing baker symbolizes the absence of warmth, nurture, and human connection in his structured, efficient world. To solve this problem, Colton reluctantly decides to place an advertisement seeking a skilled baker. The act itself is revealing of his character. Though he is competent in so many ways, asking for help requires humility. He is pragmatic enough to recognize that he cannot handle every aspect of the ranch alone, yet wary of trusting outsiders, especially in the sensitive role of cooking for his family. The advertisement is simple but deliberate. He seeks someone reliable, capable, and willing to commit to life on the ranch. Colton does not anticipate that this decision will be life-changing. At this point, the narrative is carefully grounded in practicality and subtle tension. Readers sense that while Colton is focused on the functional aspects of hiring a baker, the universe is about to surprise him with something far more profound, a person who will transform not just his meals, but his heart and life. This opening part is essential in establishing the story's setting, character motivation, and emotional stakes. It creates a believable, relatable problem that sets the stage for the entrance of Lila Bennett, the baker who will alter Colton's world. By grounding the narrative in both the practical and emotional challenges of Colton's life, Part 1 ensures that the reader feels invested in the journey that is about to unfold, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the woman who may bring both warmth and love into his structured, solitary world. The second part of the story marks a turning point, as the quiet, orderly life of Colton Hayes' ranch begins to shift with the arrival of Lila Bennett, the baker he has hired. The narrative opens with Lila's journey to the ranch, a journey that is both literal and symbolic. She arrives in the early morning light, carrying a modest suitcase filled with her personal belongings and the tools of her trade, rolling pins, mixing bowls, and recipe notebooks filled with handwritten notes. Lila's life has been one of perseverance. She has faced personal setbacks, including the dissolution of a failed engagement and estrangement from her family. and her decision to accept the job on Colton's ranch represents both hope and the fear of starting over in an unfamiliar environment. Upon reaching the ranch, Lila is immediately struck by its size and ruggedness. Unlike the cozy kitchens she has known in the past, this one is vast, utilitarian, and designed to support the needs of a busy ranch rather than to showcase culinary elegance. There is a certain intimidation in the sheer scale of her new workplace, and Lila approaches it cautiously, aware that she must prove herself capable and adaptable. Her first steps into the kitchen are tentative, as she surveys the large ovens, flour bins, and racks of utensils. The narrative emphasizes her attention to detail, her meticulous nature, and her natural grace, suggesting that she is someone who thrives when given both responsibility and trust. The first encounter between Colton and Lila is deliberately written with a mixture of tension and subtle humor, highlighting their contrasting personalities. Colton, protective and cautious, stands in the doorway, watching the newcomer with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. He is unaccustomed to letting outsiders into his tightly managed world, particularly someone responsible for caring for his daughter, Emma. Lila, on the other hand, is polite but slightly flustered, trying to make a positive first impression while navigating the unfamiliar setting. Their initial interaction includes small mishaps. Lila trips over a feed sack, flour dust clouds the air, and she nearly drops a tray of ingredients. These moments are light-hearted, but they also serve to establish an immediate, playful chemistry between the two characters. Colton's initial irritation slowly softens as he observes her resilience and resourcefulness. Emma's reaction to Lila is an important emotional element in this part. The young girl, curious and open-hearted, approaches the newcomer without hesitation, instantly bonding with Lila over shared laughter and playful conversation. This bond highlights Lila's nurturing qualities and foreshadows the deeper emotional role she will play in the Hayes household. The warmth and trust that develop between Lila and Emma contrast sharply with the cautious, somewhat guarded relationship between Lila and Colton, setting the stage for gradual emotional development. Part 2 also introduces subtle hints of the emotional stakes that will develop throughout the story. Colton begins to sense that Lila's arrival may be more than just a solution to a practical problem. Her presence brings a softness and vitality to the ranch that has been missing. Lila, in turn, experiences both hope and apprehension, recognizing that while this new position offers security and purpose, it also requires vulnerability, trusting a man she does not yet know, entering a family she has never met, and facing the unknown challenges of ranch life. The narrative in this part balances descriptive world-building with character development. Readers gain a vivid sense of the ranch environment, the vast fields, the aroma of hay and livestock, and the practical, bustling kitchen, while simultaneously understanding the inner lives of the main characters. The story carefully conveys that while Lila's arrival seems like a professional solution, it will gradually become a catalyst for emotional growth, romantic tension, and transformative relationships. By the end of this part, the reader senses that the stage has been set for a story about more than bread and chores. It is a story about hearts finding connection in unexpected places, about resilience meeting opportunity, and about two very different people beginning a journey that will challenge, surprise, and ultimately transform them. In Part 3, the story focuses on the gradual establishment of routine and relationships as Lila Bennett settles into her role as the ranch baker. This part is crucial because it deepens character development, explores the dynamics of the ranch household, and lays the groundwork for the emotional connection between Lila and Colton Hayes. Lila's first weeks on the ranch are a mix of excitement, challenge, and adaptation. She quickly discovers that cooking for a ranch is vastly different from her previous experiences in smaller city kitchens. The volume of food required, the rustic tools, and the demands of feeding not only Colton and his young daughter, Emma, but also the ranch hands, require her to adjust both her mindset and her methods. Each day presents a new learning curve, from improvising meals with limited ingredients to understanding the dietary preferences and habits of the ranch workers. The narrative emphasizes Lila's diligence, patience, and creativity, traits that make her more than just a competent cook, but someone who brings order, warmth, and love into the ranch environment. Colton watches Lila's progress closely, though he rarely interferes. His initial cautiousness slowly softens into admiration as he sees her navigate the challenges with skill and grace. He notices the way she adapts quickly, her ability to think ahead, and her quiet determination to do her job well. These observations mark the beginning of a subtle but growing attraction. Colton, a man accustomed to managing everything with precision, is struck by Lila's ability to bring ease and efficiency without losing her gentleness. Her presence highlights the contrasts in his own life. Her warmth and adaptability balance his structure and discipline, creating a sense of equilibrium that he didn't realize he was missing. This part also emphasizes the growing bond between Lila and Emma, the young girl who has been used to a structured but emotionally distant household, finds in Lila a confidant, friend, and surrogate mother figure. They share small, tender moments, laughing over spilled flour, baking cookies together, or sharing stories during quiet afternoons. These interactions serve multiple purposes. They highlight Lila's nurturing qualities, underscore the emotional void in Colton's life, and foreshadow how Lila's presence will gradually transform the family dynamic. Emma's affection for Lila also begins to act as a bridge between her and Colton, subtly encouraging him to open his heart to the baker. At the same time, Lila is not without her own struggles. The demands of the ranch test her physically and emotionally. She faces fatigue, self-doubt, and occasional setbacks in the kitchen, which reflect the realistic challenges of adjusting to a new environment. Through these moments, the narrative humanizes her character, showing that competence is paired with vulnerability. These vulnerabilities allow readers to connect deeply with Lila and anticipate the ways her resilience will later play a role in her relationship with Colton. Another important element of this part is the subtle romantic tension that begins to build between Lila and Colton. They interact regularly in practical ways, discussing meals, ingredients, or kitchen schedules, but small gestures and shared glances hint at mutual attraction. Colton begins to see Lila not just as a hired worker, but as someone whose presence positively impacts his life. Lila, while focused on her work, cannot ignore the protective yet warm attention Colton gives her, planting the seeds of curiosity, trust, and affection. Part 3 also enriches the ranch setting, giving readers a sense of life beyond the immediate household. The daily routines, the bustling of the ranch hands, the open fields, and the kitchen's aromas create a vivid backdrop that makes the story immersive. By integrating character development with descriptive world building, this part balances plot progression with emotional depth. By the end of Learning the Ropes, Lila is no longer just a new hire. She is becoming an integral part of the ranch's life. Her skills, kindness, and presence begin to reshape the household, subtly transforming both Colton's perception of family and his emotional landscape. This part solidifies the foundation for the story's romantic and emotional arcs, ensuring that readers are invested in the growing bond between the rancher and the baker. Part 4 introduces the first significant obstacle in the story, highlighting the characters' growth, testing their resilience, and deepening the bond between Lila Bennett and Colton Hayes. This part shifts from establishing routine to exploring how both characters handle stress, responsibility, and emerging emotions. The story opens with a sudden crisis. A shipment of essential supplies, including flour, fresh produce, and other ingredients needed for the ranch kitchen, is delayed. This unexpected problem throws Lila's carefully organized plans into disarray. She must now improvise meals for Colton, Emma, and the ranch hands using limited resources, all while maintaining the high standard of quality and warmth expected of her. The narrative emphasizes Lila's quick thinking and resourcefulness. She examines the pantry, assesses the available ingredients, and begins experimenting with substitutions, turning simple items into nourishing, comforting meals. This moment establishes her not only as a skilled baker, but as someone capable of handling pressure with calm intelligence and creativity. Colton observes this unfolding with a mixture of surprise and admiration. He has always prided himself on managing the ranch with efficiency and precision, yet he recognizes that Lila is facing a challenge that requires a different set of skills: patience, intuition, and empathy. Watching her navigate the crisis, he begins to appreciate qualities he rarely values in others: flexibility, ingenuity, and emotional resilience. At the same time, he feels a subtle stir of protectiveness, realizing that this woman, whom he initially saw as merely an employee, is someone capable of making a real impact on his household and even his heart. The crisis also serves to deepen the connection between Lila and Emma. The young girl observes Lila's determination and resourcefulness, which not only impresses her but inspires trust and admiration. Together they find moments of joy amid the stress, sharing laughter over creative snack experiments, sampling slightly imperfect but delicious treats, and quietly supporting each other through the kitchen chaos. Emma's presence humanizes the challenge for Lila, transforming it from a professional test into an emotional and relational one. The bond between Lila and Emma begins to mirror the foundation of trust and warmth that will later influence Colton's feelings. Meanwhile, Colton faces his own internal challenge. Seeing Lila struggle but persevere stirs feelings he has never confronted before: admiration, attraction, and a tentative awareness of love. At the same time, his protective instincts conflict with his desire to respect Lila's independence. This part of the story highlights Colton's emotional complexity. He is drawn to Lila, but he is wary of pushing too fast or imposing himself in her space. The narrative carefully balances these feelings, showing that the foundation of a healthy relationship requires both vulnerability and respect. This chapter also introduces subtle tension between practical needs and emotional stakes. Colton could solve the problem by taking over the kitchen or bringing in temporary help, but doing so would undermine Lila's autonomy and confidence. By allowing her to lead, he not only affirms her abilities, but signals that he is beginning to trust and value her as more than an employee. This dynamic underscores one of the central themes of the story. Love and respect are intertwined, and emotional connections grow strongest when mutual recognition of capability and independence exists. By the end of Part 4, the crisis is resolved successfully. Lila manages to prepare meals that are both nourishing and comforting, earning the admiration of Colton and the ranch hands. Colton, in turn, acknowledges, perhaps for the first time, that Lila has become indispensable not just for her skills, but for the warmth and vitality she brings to the ranch. This first challenge cements her place in the household and sets the stage for the growing romantic tension between her and Colton. It also signals to readers that the story is evolving from a simple hiring a baker scenario to a narrative about emotional growth, trust, and the slow but inevitable opening of hearts. Part 5 is a pivotal moment in the story, marking the first real emotional connection between Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett beyond the boundaries of employer and employee. After the initial routines are established and the first challenge of the delayed supplies has been overcome, the narrative shifts to explore vulnerability, trust, and intimacy in small, meaningful moments. This part emphasizes the human side of the ranch and begins to transform the professional relationship into a deeply personal one. The story begins with an ordinary evening on the ranch, one of those quiet, unassuming moments where the sun dips low, casting golden hues across the fields. A sudden storm develops, unexpected and heavy, trapping both Colton and Lila in the kitchen together. This confined, intimate setting becomes symbolic, a temporary escape from the larger responsibilities of the ranch, providing the perfect backdrop for personal revelations. Outside, the wind howls and rain lashes against the windows, heightening the sense of isolation and safety at once. The storm, a metaphorical device, mirrors the emotional turbulence both characters feel as they navigate their growing attraction. Within this moment, Colton and Lila begin sharing parts of themselves that had previously been hidden. Colton, usually reserved and stoic, opens up about his life as a rancher, the pressures of responsibility, the burden of providing for his family, and the loneliness that accompanies leadership. His voice, soft yet steady, reveals the man beneath the rugged exterior, a father devoted to his daughter and a man quietly yearning for connection. Lila listens with empathy, offering encouragement and understanding without judgment. Her presence, warm and genuine, allows Colton to reveal emotions he has long kept guarded. Similarly, Lila begins to share her past, including her struggles with a failed engagement and estranged family relationships. She speaks with measured honesty, careful not to overburden Colton, but sincere enough to invite trust. The narrative emphasizes her courage in being vulnerable, showing that true strength often comes from facing emotional uncertainty. As she speaks, the reader senses the beginnings of a bridge forming between the two characters, one built on shared humanity rather than mere proximity. Emma, Colton's young daughter, is a silent but important participant in this dynamic. Though asleep in her room, her presence is felt through small references, the flicker of her nightlight or the reassurance that she is safe and cared for. Lila's relationship with Emma deepens the bond with Colton indirectly. Her care for the child demonstrates not only her nurturing qualities, but also her compatibility with the family unit, which is central to Colton's life. The story subtly underscores that relationships on the ranch are not isolated. Every bond influences the others. The storm and confinement create moments of subtle tension and intimacy. Shared laughter over minor mishaps in the kitchen, tentative touches as they pass utensils, and quiet glances that linger longer than expected. These interactions, understated yet charged with emotion, allow readers to feel the growing attraction without rushing the romance. Part 5 focuses on slow-burning connection, demonstrating that relationships are strengthened through trust, patience, and shared vulnerability. This part also reinforces thematic elements of the story: trust, emotional openness, and the transformative power of human connection. Colton begins to see that Lila's presence is not just beneficial for the ranch or Emma, but for his own emotional growth. Likewise, Lila recognizes that the ranch and Colton himself offers a space where she can heal and flourish. By the end of this chapter, both characters acknowledge, consciously or subconsciously, that something deeper is forming, an emotional bond that will influence their decisions, actions, and hearts in the chapters to come. Part 5 serves as a bridge between professional interaction and romantic development. It deepens character complexity, reinforces the ranch setting as a place of both work and emotional intimacy, and sets the stage for future challenges and confessions. The unexpected bond formed here is not sudden or superficial. It is built on shared vulnerability, mutual respect, and quiet, meaningful moments that hint at the possibility of love. Part 6 introduces tension and stakes to the story, marking the first external obstacle to the growing connection between Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett. Up to this point, the narrative has focused on establishing routine, bonding, and subtle romantic tension. Now the story adds complexity by introducing a rival figure, someone who challenges both the professional and emotional stability that Lila and Colton have been building. This part tests trust, loyalty, and the character's emotional resilience. The story begins with Colton's ranch running smoothly thanks to Lila's skill and dedication. Meals are prepared on time, the ranch hands are satisfied, and Emma's happiness reflects the warmth that Lila brings into the household. However, a new baker arrives in town, presenting herself as a more efficient and polished alternative. She is charming, confident, and business-minded, contrasting sharply with Lila's humble, authentic approach. The rival immediately catches the attention of the local community and, more importantly, forces Colton to confront his priorities. Practicality versus emotional connection, efficiency versus authenticity. Colton's initial reaction is pragmatic. He considers hiring the rival temporarily or testing her abilities, weighing the convenience she might bring to the ranch. Yet every interaction with her serves as a mirror, reflecting what he truly values in Lila. The contrast is clear. The rival may be efficient, but she lacks the warmth, personal investment, and nurturing presence that Lila naturally provides. Through this comparison, the narrative emphasizes that the story is not simply about hiring a worker, but about building a home and family environment. Colton's growing admiration for Lila is reinforced as he recognizes that efficiency alone cannot replace the genuine human connection she has cultivated. For Lila, the rival's arrival triggers insecurity and self-doubt. She worries that Colton might be swayed by the promises of someone better suited to the technical demands of the ranch. This internal conflict forces Lila to confront her fears of inadequacy and rejection, reflecting broader themes in the story: vulnerability, trust, and the courage to claim one's place. Lila's response is not to compete through manipulation or deception, but to continue being herself, capable, caring, and genuine. This choice strengthens her character, demonstrating resilience and emotional maturity. The tension in this part also deepens the emotional stakes between Colton and Lila. Colton is now faced with a conscious decision. Should he prioritize convenience and practicality, or should he acknowledge his emotional bond with Lila and the intangible qualities she brings to his life? This decision-making process is crucial for his character development, as it forces him to evaluate what he truly values in relationships, both professional and personal. The narrative uses subtle interactions, glances, gestures, and unspoken communication to highlight the growing romantic tension while keeping the rivalry in the background. Additionally, this part provides an opportunity to explore secondary relationships. Emma's attachment to Lila becomes more pronounced, serving as a barometer of the emotional stakes. Colton observes how integral Lila is to his daughter's happiness, reinforcing the idea that relationships are not isolated. One connection affects the entire household dynamic. Through Emma's innocent perspective, readers see the authenticity of Lila's bond and its impact on the family structure. By the end of Part 6, the threat of competition acts as a catalyst for clarity. Both Colton and Lila recognize the depth of their connection, even as external pressures test their confidence and trust. The rival baker is not a villain, but a narrative device, highlighting the choices, priorities, and values that define the main characters. This part sets the stage for subsequent emotional revelations. As the story transitions from testing loyalty to exploring confession, commitment, and the power of authentic love. The threat of competition serves multiple purposes. It heightens tension, challenges the character's emotional growth, and emphasizes the story's central themes of trust, authenticity, and the transformative power of genuine connection. It ensures that the narrative continues to engage readers with conflict while reinforcing the emotional stakes at the heart of the story. Part 7 represents a turning point in the story, where the narrative moves from internal development and subtle tension to a more public, social stage, allowing both characters' feelings and reputations to be tested. This section uses the town's harvest festival as a backdrop to reveal personal growth, romantic tension, and the deepening bond between Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett. The festival serves as a narrative device to showcase character traits, community dynamics, and emotional stakes in a lively, colorful setting. The story begins with the town preparing for the annual Harvest Festival, a celebrated event that brings together the community for food, music, games, and competitions. Lila, despite her initial shyness, decides to participate by contributing her baked goods. This is a crucial moment for her character, as it reflects her growing confidence and willingness to step outside the safety of the ranch. She prepares a selection of breads, pastries, and desserts, pouring care, creativity, and personal flair into every item. Through these preparations, the narrative emphasizes Lila's dedication, skill, and her desire to be recognized not just as a worker, but as someone capable and talented in her own right. Colton's role during this festival is equally important. He accompanies Lila, observing not only her skill but also the way the community responds to her creations. He witnesses firsthand the admiration, praise, and attention she receives, which both validates her talents and challenges his protective instincts. Colton feels pride but also a subtle fear. As Lila is recognized by others, he realizes how deeply he values her presence, not just for her work, but for the warmth and life she brings into his home. The festival becomes a mirror, reflecting his feelings and forcing him to confront the truth about his growing affection for her. The young daughter, Emma, is a constant emotional thread during this event. She beams with joy as Lila's treats receive accolades and attention, reinforcing the strong bond between them. Emma's excitement and pride in Lila subtly encourage Colton to recognize that Lila's impact extends beyond his own heart. She has become integral to the happiness of his family. This interplay between adult and child dynamics emphasizes one of the story's central themes. Love and connection are amplified when they touch the lives of those we care about most. As the festival unfolds, Lila experiences a personal revelation. The positive reception of her baking boosts her confidence, and she begins to see that she is capable of carving out a space for herself in this new community and in Colton's life. She realizes that the ranch is not merely a job. It has become a place of belonging, growth, and potential happiness. This revelation is quiet but profound, marking a shift in her emotional journey from caution and self-doubt to hope and optimism. Simultaneously, subtle romantic tension continues to build between Lila and Colton. Their interactions during the festival, shared smiles, lingering glances, small touches as they move through the crowd, serve to communicate feelings that neither has yet fully verbalized. The festival allows these emotions to be expressed indirectly, creating a sense of anticipation for the reader while keeping the narrative grounded in realism. Colton's pride in Lila's achievements and Lila's awareness of his admiration form the basis of mutual respect and attraction, further solidifying their bond. By the end of Part 7, both characters are more self-aware and more deeply connected to each other. The festival functions as a narrative milestone. It publicly validates Lila's skills and character, strengthens her bond with Emma, and provides Colton with the clarity he needs to recognize the depth of his feelings. The revelation is not only personal but communal. The story underscores that love, recognition, and belonging often flourish within supportive environments, and that emotional growth is intertwined with social interaction and shared celebration. This part successfully balances character development, romance, and thematic resonance, setting the stage for the challenges and confessions to come in subsequent sections of the story. Part 8 represents the emotional turning point in the story, where past struggles resurface and test the strength of the bond between Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett. After establishing routine, building trust, and deepening romantic tension, the narrative introduces a challenge that is deeply personal for Lila, one that forces both characters to confront vulnerability, loyalty, and emotional courage. This part explores themes of trust, self-acceptance, and the risks inherent in allowing oneself to love and be loved. The crisis begins with the unexpected arrival of a figure from Lila's past, an estranged family member who embodies unresolved conflicts and emotional baggage. This encounter dredges up old wounds, reminding Lila of her past hardships, including estrangement from her family and the failed engagement that left emotional scars. The presence of this figure triggers feelings of fear, uncertainty, and self-doubt, leading Lila to question whether she truly belongs on the ranch or deserves happiness. This personal confrontation forces her to grapple with unresolved pain, illustrating that emotional healing is an ongoing process and that love cannot flourish without facing the shadows of one's past. For Lila, the decision to leave the ranch temporarily to confront her past is a moment of intense internal conflict. She feels torn between the stability, safety, and budding happiness she has found at the ranch and the necessity of facing unresolved issues in her personal life. This conflict is not just about physical presence. It is symbolic of the larger emotional stakes at play. Leaving the ranch represents a risk of loss, risk of heartbreak, and risk of undoing the sense of belonging she has slowly built. The narrative emphasizes her courage, showing that vulnerability and emotional honesty are acts of strength rather than weakness. Colton's role in this crisis is crucial in demonstrating the depth of his emotional growth. When he learns of Lila's struggles and her potential decision to leave, he is faced with a dilemma. Should he allow her the freedom to handle her personal crisis independently, or should he intervene and risk overstepping boundaries? His response reflects a maturation of character as he navigates the delicate balance between protectiveness and respect for Lila's autonomy. Colton realizes that true affection requires trust, not only in the other person but also in the strength of the bond they share. This moment is essential in highlighting that love is not about possession or control, but about support, understanding, and shared resilience. During this period, the story also emphasizes the emotional stakes for the family unit. Emma, who has grown attached to Lila, experiences worry and uncertainty about the possible departure. This dynamic underscores the interconnectedness of relationships and demonstrates how Lila's presence has become integral not only to Colton's heart, but also to the emotional well-being of his daughter. Emma's reaction serves as a narrative tool to highlight the genuine impact Lila has made, reinforcing that her value extends far beyond her baking skills or role as an employee. The narrative tension in this part is heightened by the uncertainty surrounding Lila's choices and the emotional vulnerability she displays. Readers are drawn into her inner struggle, empathizing with her fear of rejection and the risk of reopening old wounds. At the same time, Colton's growing awareness of his feelings creates anticipation, as readers sense the imminent need for confession, commitment, and reconciliation. By the end of Part 8, Lila confronts her past, and Colton's steadfast support, whether expressed through actions, words, or simple presence, strengthens their bond. The personal crisis acts as a crucible, refining both characters' emotional resilience and clarifying the depth of their connection. This part emphasizes that love is not without challenges, and that true intimacy requires navigating pain, fear, and uncertainty together. It sets the stage for the emotional climax of the story, preparing readers for confessions, commitments, and the resolution of romantic tension in the subsequent sections. Part 9 is the emotional climax of the story, where tension, longing, and vulnerability reach their peak, culminating in the confessions that solidify the romantic bond between Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett. Up until this point, the narrative has carefully built trust, mutual admiration, and subtle romantic tension, and this part brings all of those elements together, allowing both characters to fully confront their feelings and take decisive emotional action. The chapter begins in a quiet, reflective moment on the ranch. The day's work is done, the sun sets over the pastures, and the world feels calm, a stark contrast to the emotional turbulence both characters have experienced. Lila, having faced her personal crisis in Part 8, is in a place of introspection. She reflects on her journey, the initial uncertainty of arriving at the ranch, the challenges she overcame, and the bonds she formed with Emma and Colton. This reflection allows readers to see her growth. She has moved from hesitation and self-doubt to confidence, emotional maturity, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. She recognizes that she has found more than a job or a safe place. She has found a home, a sense of belonging, and a love she cannot ignore. Colton, meanwhile, is grappling with his own emotions. Over the course of the story, he has watched Lila face challenges with resilience, care for Emma with tenderness, and bring warmth and joy to the ranch that he did not realize he was missing. He now acknowledges, perhaps for the first time with clarity, that his admiration has deepened into love. This recognition is not superficial. It is tied to the way Lila makes the ranch a home, challenges him to open his heart, and integrates seamlessly into his family life. His internal struggle lies in balancing his protective instincts with the need to express his emotions honestly and vulnerably. The confessions occur in a naturally intimate setting, symbolic of the trust and comfort they have built together. It may be in the kitchen where Lila's influence transformed daily life, or in a quiet spot overlooking the ranch's pastures. The setting emphasizes that their relationship has been forged through shared experiences, daily routines, and mutual respect. Colton speaks openly, expressing how deeply Lila has impacted his life and how he cannot imagine the ranch or his heart without her. Lila, in turn, admits her own feelings, acknowledging that she has found safety, affection, and belonging with Colton and Emma. Their dialogue is heartfelt, unhurried, and sincere, reflecting the emotional growth that has led them to this point. Emma's role in this part is subtly poignant. The young girl, a constant thread throughout the story, witnesses, or senses, the bond solidifying between her father and Lila. Her joy, approval, and excitement serve as both an emotional anchor and a reminder that love in this story is not isolated. It affects the family unit as a whole. Lila's commitment to Colton is, therefore, not just about romantic attachment, but about embracing a life that includes Emma, highlighting the theme of chosen family and the integration of love, trust, and care. The narrative also uses this part to reinforce broader themes: vulnerability, trust, and the courage to embrace love fully. Both characters have faced personal insecurities, external challenges, and moments of doubt, but they now choose to confront those fears together. Their commitment is active, a decision rather than a circumstance, showing that love in this story is as much about intentional action as it is about emotion. By the end of Part 9, the confessions have resolved the central emotional tension, marking a turning point where the characters move from longing and hesitation to clarity, openness, and shared commitment. The stage is now set for the resolution in Part 10, where their love, family bonds, and life on the ranch will flourish fully, offering readers a satisfying and heartfelt conclusion. Part 10 serves as the resolution and emotional culmination of the story, where all previous conflicts, growth, and romantic tension are resolved, and Colton Hayes and Lila Bennett step into a shared life full of love, stability, and hope. This part is essential for giving readers closure, showing the long-term impact of the character's journey and emphasizing the story's central themes of trust, family, and emotional fulfillment. The chapter opens with a sense of harmony on the ranch. The daily routines that were once fraught with stress or uncertainty are now transformed into a rhythm of cooperation, joy, and warmth. Lila, once the new, timid baker stepping into a daunting environment, is now fully integrated into ranch life. Her baking continues to bring comfort and joy, but more importantly, her presence has transformed the ranch into a home, full of laughter, care, and emotional connection. The story emphasizes how her influence extends beyond the kitchen. She nurtures Emma, strengthens Colton's family bonds, and fosters a sense of belonging that the ranch has previously lacked. Colton, in turn, demonstrates the growth he has achieved throughout the story. From a stoic, self-reliant rancher, he has evolved into a man capable of vulnerability, emotional expression, and open-hearted love. His commitment to Lila and Emma is not just about romantic attachment. It reflects a conscious choice to create a family built on trust, respect, and shared responsibility. The narrative highlights the satisfaction and fulfillment he experiences, not from wealth or success, but from the emotional richness of having someone to love and care for, and someone who reciprocates that love. Emma's role in this part is vital. Her joy and security act as both a measure and a reflection of Lila and Colton's success in forming a cohesive family unit. The young girl thrives in the warmth and attention she receives from both Colton and Lila, solidifying the idea that love is not just romantic, but communal and inclusive. Her happiness underscores one of the story's central themes. True love encompasses the well-being of all those affected, and forming a family is as much about emotional support and nurture as it is about affection between adults. The narrative also touches on the community around the ranch. The townspeople who have observed Lila's growth and her bond with the Hayes family now recognize her as an integral part of the household. This public acknowledgement reinforces the story's themes of belonging and acceptance. Lila is no longer the outsider or the new hire. She is a valued member of the family, the community, and the ranch's life. Her journey from uncertainty to fulfillment is complete, mirroring the emotional satisfaction readers have anticipated throughout the story. Romance and daily life are interwoven in this final part to show that love is not just a moment of confession, but an ongoing, lived experience. Lila and Colton's relationship is depicted as balanced and grounded. They support each other's goals, share responsibilities, and continue to grow together. Their love has been tested through challenges, rivalries, personal crises, and emotional vulnerability, and their decision to remain committed signifies a matured, lasting bond. The narrative emphasizes that love is both choice and effort, illustrating that true fulfillment comes from combining emotional intimacy with practical partnership. By the conclusion, the ranch is no longer just a setting. It symbolizes stability, growth, and the life they have built together. Lila and Colton share quiet moments of connection. Emma's laughter fills the house, and the environment reflects harmony, warmth, and security. The story closes on a hopeful, heartfelt note, demonstrating that love, perseverance, and authenticity can transform not only individual lives, but also the spaces we inhabit. Part 10 successfully ties together all emotional and narrative threads. The personal growth, romantic development, and family bonds are fully realized, giving readers a satisfying resolution. It reinforces the story's overarching messages, that love is nurtured through vulnerability, trust, and shared experience, and that sometimes the solutions we seek for practical problems, like hiring a baker, can lead to the most profound joys in life.